This is an audio recording of Bob the Photographer by Arthur M. Winfield, narrated by Right Here Audio. Chapter 13. Bob Makes a True Friend. The cell in which Bob was confined was provided with a rough sleeping bench, but though the youth lay down, he did not slumber, but lay awake thinking over his troubles. At last morning came, and at 9 o'clock Bob was brought out into the little courtroom attached to the station. Here sat a stern-faced judge who eyed him sharply as the charge against him was made. "What have you to say to this?" Bob was asked. Bob, of course, put in a plea of not guilty. Then he was asked a number of questions, and he related his whole story. "You look as if you were telling the truth, but the facts in the case don't bear you out," said the judge. "You had no right under any circumstances to enter Mr. Olney's house." At that moment a man brushed forward. It was Mr. Starley. "May it please your honor, may I ask why this young man was brought here?" he asked. The judge happened to know the old photographer, and he related the case. "He is not guilty, you may be sure of that," said Mr. Starley. "I am positive he is perfectly honest." "You know him, then?" "He works for me. He is the person who helped to capture Bidwell the thief." "Oh, then that is a different matter, but still." While the judge was talking, Mr. Starley turned to Olney. "John, you are making a sad mistake. This young man is not a sneak thief." "It looks mighty suspicious," returned Olney. He was a dealer in photographic supplies, and Starley was a good customer. "I feel certain you are mistaken." "Did you say he works for you?" "Yes." "Then I'll withdraw the charge," Olney said, not wishing to displease a valued customer. He turned to the judge. "Your honor, will you allow me to withdraw the charge?" "Well, under the circumstances you may," returned the judge. "The young man having such a person as Mr. Starley to vouch for his honesty makes a difference. Robert Eldon, you may go." Bob lost no time in stepping down, only stopped to talk to Mr. Starley for several minutes. When he was gone, the youth grasped the old photographer by the hand. "Oh, how can I thank you?" he exclaimed warmly. "That's all right," returned Mr. Starley. "I haven't forgotten what you did for me, Bob. I was fortunate you came here." "I was summoned to testify against a fellow who set the building on fire," returned the old photographer. "He had a grudge against one of the tenants, but the case had been postponed for a couple of days, so I am not needed." "What do you want me to do?" "If you will, I wish you would go over to Martin's studio. He will give us facilities for printing from the plates we saved. This afternoon the fire insurance agents are going to adjust my claim, and then I will open somewhere else just as soon as I can." "Before I leave, I would like to know what the police did at Cabot's," said Bob. "We will ask Captain Downs. I know him quite well." The official mentioned was found close at hand. He said 2 rivermen had gotten into a dispute in the saloon, and both had discharged their pistols, but without damage. 2 policemen had been summoned, and the rivermen were now in jail. Bob then told of Casco, Barker, and Grogan. "I heard about that through the fellow who was drugged," said Captain Downs, "and 2 detectives are already on the way, but no doubt those men have lost no time in getting away, and Cabot will deny they were ever there. They are a set of shrewd and slippery criminals." "Can you tell me anything about this Blake?" The captain shook his head. "Never heard of him." "And Sarah Blake?" "Never heard of her either. They're probably newcomers to Stampton." The conversation continued for several minutes, and then Bob left to make his way to Martin's studio, while Mr. Starley hurried off to rent new quarters in place of the ones he burnt out. Bob found Martin a very nice man. The youth worked hard, and by evening he had printed and mounted an unusually large number of photographs. "You have the knack of it, I see," said Martin. "If you are ever out of a job, come over and see me." "Thank you. Perhaps I will," replied Bob. He had not forgotten the promise he had made to Grace Maverick, and after supper that evening he brushed up and again visited the mansion on Mountain Avenue. The girl met him at the door and once conducted him to the library, where sat Mr. Gregory Maverick, the president of the T.W.&L. Railroad. Mr. Maverick was a short, round-faced man with rather a pleasant cast of countenance. He sat in an easy chair, his slippered feet resting on a cushion. "Papa, this is Mr. Robert Alden," said Grace, presenting the youth. Mr. Maverick at once jumped up and caught Bob by the hand. "So you are the young man who rescued Grace, are you?" he said. "I am very happy to meet you. I have been wanting to thank you for a long time for that brave act." "Oh, it wasn't much," stammered Bob. "I think it's a good deal," laughed the railroad president. "Sit down. Grace tells me you are a stranger to Stampton." "Yes, sir. I came here looking for work." "And have you succeeded?" "Yes, sir." And Bob started to tell how he had run across Mr. Starley through the sneak thief's effort to get away. "I've heard of that fellow," said Mr. Maverick, "but go on with your story. I'm quite interested." "And so am I," added Grace, who had taken a seat at her father's feet. Bob did as requested. Both Mr. Maverick and his daughter asked a great number of questions, and before the youth was aware he had related his entire history, and the clock had long since struck 10. "Really, I must be making you tired," said the youth as he glanced at the timepiece. "Oh, the contrary! I have been deeply interested," said the railroad president. "I like to see a young man show pluck and determination. That is the only way to succeed in life. So your ambition is to become a first-class photographer?" "Yes, sir. I don't care so much for studio work, but I would like to use the art on the road. I love traveling from place to place." Mr. Maverick stroked his chin reflectively. A sudden idea had flashed through his mind. "You like to do work outdoors, eh?" "Yes, sir." "How long will it take you to learn that branch of the work?" "Oh, I can take that sort of a picture now. Faces are the hardest thing to photograph." "I see." Mr. Maverick mused for a moment. "Will you do me the favor to call here tomorrow evening? I may have a proposition to make to you." "I will come, sir." Then the conversation became general, and a quarter of an hour later Bob left, Grace Maverick seeing him to the door. Bob could not help but wonder what proposition the railroad president would have to make. Of course, it would be in return for the assistance he had given Grace. Perhaps Mr. Maverick would offer him a place on the road. Well, if it paid, Bob would accept it, even though it was not in exact line with his desires. He would do a good deal to be where he might occasionally come in contact with Grace. On the following morning, Mr. Starley announced that he had purchased the title and interest in a photographic establishment close to the one which had been burned out. The plates, which had been saved, as well as the lenses, were at once transferred to the newly acquired studio, and by dinner time they were once more ready for business. The assistant who drank had been discharged, and when Mr. Starley went off to purchase some supplies, which would soon be needed, Bob was left in sole charge of the studio. The man who had owned the establishment before Mr. Starley had purchased it had been a wild sort of fellow, and had paid but scant attention to business. Consequently, trade was all run down, and as Mr. Starley's former patrons had not yet heard of the change, business during the afternoon was exceedingly dull. But Bob worked hard at printing and mounting photographs, and to him the time passed quickly enough. At length, about 5 o'clock, there came a series of loud knocks on the glass door which led to the hall. "Come in!" called out Bob, and in response there stalked in a very tall, lean man with hollow cheeks and sunken eyes. The man stared vacantly around the studio and then dropped into a chair. "You take photos here, I understand," he said in a deep, bass voice. "Yes, sir," returned Bob politely. "Photos of all the presidents, I understand?" "Hardly," laughed Bob. He thought the man was joking. "Sometimes we take a bank president, or something like that." "Never took a president of the United States?" demanded the man sharply. "I think not, sir." "I understood differently. Understand?" "I understood differently," cried the man, raising his voice and jumping to his feet. "I am not to be imposed upon either," he added. "I am not imposing on you," returned Bob gently. He realized at once that the man was not right in his mind. "We would willingly take a president, if he would grant us a sitting." "Ah, so I thought. That's the reason I came here. Do you know who I am?" "I do not, sir." "I am the President of Sandwich Islands, appointed by Act of Congress last month. Take off your hat." As Bob had no hat on, he could not comply with this demand. His failure to do his bidding seemed to anger the man, who was nothing more or less than crazy. "Did you hear me, sir?" "I did, but I haven't any hat on." "Ah, that's different. I am short-sighted. Lost my sight in the Mexican War. A shell passed in front of me. I dodged, and though I escaped, it carried the best part of my eyesight with it." To this Bob made no reply. He was meditating on how best to get rid of his unwelcome visitor. Suddenly the man stole over to where he stood. "Get the machine ready," he cried. "What for?" "For my picture. I want you to take the largest ever taken, regardless of expense." "I can't do that, sir." "Why not?" "I am only a helper here. The proprietor is out." "You had better call again." "Ha! I would, but I haven't time. Understand, I haven't time. Every moment of a president's life is important. I have 3 ministers to appoint before I go to sleep, and the people harass me to death with their applications." "Well, I can't take the picture." "Then I will take it myself." The man rushed towards the camera and caught hold of the tube. "Stop!" cried Bob in alarm. "You may break something." Bob grasped the crazy man by the arm and tried to make him let go his hold on the camera. "You will only break it," he went. "Please come in tomorrow. Now or never. I have promised all my friends a picture of my skeleton, and I do not intend to disappoint them. Where are the plates? The best in the house, mind, regardless of expense. The president has his picture taken at the public expense. Ha ha! That's a joke." Seeing he could do nothing with the crazy fellow, Bob moved towards the door, intending to summon assistance and have him removed. But now a knowing look came into the lunatic's eyes. He left the camera and leaped towards the youth. "No, I'm not going back. You can't make me. They all say I'm crazy, but they're jealous. That's all. But when the picture is taken, it will be all right. Stay here till I press the button, and don't dare to move, or I will have to banish you to utter darkness forever." And catching up a folded tripod, the crazy man stood guard so that Bob might not escape from the studio. Chapter 14. Bob makes a new move. Bob was alarmed when the crazy man strode forward, tripod in hand, as if to brain him should he attempt to leave the studio. He had not had much to do with people of unsound mind, but he was well aware that his present position was both a delicate and a dangerous one. If the lunatic attacked him, he would have a hard struggle to keep himself from harm, but despite his hollow eyes and shrunken form, the man looked strong. "I'm not going to leave," said Bob. "Put down the tripod and sit in the chair if you want the picture of your skeleton taken." He left the vicinity of the door, and seeing this, the crazy man at once dropped the folded tripod and sank into a chair. "Will you take the picture?" he demanded. "I will, if you will promise to go away right afterwards," returned the youth. "That goes. Take me this way and be quick. I must catch the next ocean steamer for the Sandwich Islands." The man sprawled out on the chair, put one hand to his chin and the other to his breast, and put on a sober, earnest look. Bob at once placed a prepared tin plate in the camera, put on the proper lenses, and in a few minutes had a tin type of the crazy man. "There you are," he said as he trimmed it up. "Now you will have to hurry to catch that steamer." The lunatic glared at the picture for a second, then he burst into a wild fit of laughter. "Is that me? Really, where is the skeleton? Oh, this is a fraud. Take 1,000 more, and be sure to add the skeleton if you want your pay." Bob's heart sank within him. He had made a great effort to get rid of the lunatic, and failed. What was to be done now? He decided to use strong measures. Picking up the folded tripod, he advanced towards the lunatic. "Get out of here at once," he said sternly. "I am too busy to be fooled with. Go." The crazy man's face fell, and with a slow step he moved towards the door. "Excuse me," he said softly. "I didn't know you were busy. I'll come in sometime tomorrow." He made a profound bow and started as if to go. "Thank fortune I am rid of him," thought Bob, but the youth was mistaken. Reaching the door, the lunatic suddenly turned and, before Bob was aware, sprang straight for the youth's throat. The attack was so unexpected that Bob was borne over backwards, the crazy man landing on his breast. "Let up!" gasped Bob desperately. The crazy man did not reply, but tightened his grip on Bob's throat so that he was nearly choked to death. In vain, Bob struggled. He could not loosen that nervous hold the lunatic had taken, and now his head began to swim and strange lights began to flicker before his eyes. He tried to kick but could not reach his opponent. Half a minute more passed, and poor Bob was on the point of giving himself up as lost. Then the door of the studio opened, and Mr. Starley hurried in, followed by Mr. Martin. "Hello? What's this?" cried the old photographer, surveying the strange scene in astonishment. "It's crazy Sam Bartlett!" ejaculated Mr. Martin. "He is choking the boy to death," went on Mr. Starley. "Here, let him be!" He caught the lunatic by the shoulder and hauled him backwards. The man set up a howl and ceased tormenting Bob. He gave one look at Mr. Martin, and his face fell. "Sam? What's this mean?" demanded the photographer. "Haven't time to explain," returned Bartlett hurriedly. "When did they let you out?" "I ran away. They think I'm crazy, but I'm the president of Sandwich Islands. Here we go!" Bartlett made a dash for the door. Mr. Martin tried to stop him, but he was too late. A second later, they heard a crash. Bartlett had leaped down the entire flight of stairs. All three went after him and found him lying at the bottom, his left leg broken. The police were at once summoned, and a close coach was procured, in which he was taken to the lunatic asylum from which he had escaped. Then Mr. Starley had Bob tell his story. Both the old photographer and Mr. Martin listened with great interest. "And I never want another such experience as long as I live," concluded Bob. "I shouldn't think you would," said Mr. Starley. "Cranks are bad enough, but a real crazy man is 10 times worse. It is lucky we came in when we did." Bob went to work again, but his nerves were all unstrung, and before long the old photographer told him he might as well stop for the day, as there was no need for further hurry. When Bob reached his boarding house, he found a long letter from Frank Lands awaiting him. In the epistle, Frank said he intended to take a trip to Stampton before long, and then go on a business tour along the TW&L Railroad. "I would like to go with him," thought Bob. "Maybe I'll see Frank, if Mr. Maverick offers me a place on the road." That evening found Bob again at the railroad president's mansion. According to agreement, Grace was present, and a long talk occurred. "I want to do something for you, Bob," said Mr. Maverick. "I think I owe it to you after what you did for Grace, but I will not offer you money for that service, for such acts are not to be paid for in cash." Mr. Maverick paused. Bob bowed, but did not reply. He was wondering what was coming. "You said you loved the art of photography and would like nothing better than a chance to travel about taking pictures. To help you along in this direction, I have purchased for you a complete traveling outfit, including a horse and a wagon." "Mr. Maverick!" burst out the youth. "Do you really mean that?" "Yes, Bob," smiled the railroad president. "Come with me." Grace jumped up and led the way out of the house and down to the barn. There stood a fine horse and a regular photographer's turnout. The lantern was lit inside of the wagon, and Bob saw it contained several cameras, some lenses, a great number of plates, besides a cabinet of chemicals and other things needed for taking pictures. "This is Grace's gift to you," said Mr. Maverick. "How does it strike you?" It strikes me all of a heap," gasped Bob. "Do you really mean to say this whole outfit is for me?" "Certainly," said Grace, "and I hope you will make money out of it." But it's too much," went on the youth, who could as yet hardly realize his good fortune. "No, it isn't," returned the girl warmly. "You deserve every bit of it." "There is a money drawer under the seat," went on Mr. Maverick. "In it you will find some cash, which you will need." Bob shook his head. There was too much of a lump in his throat to say anything. Good fortune seemed to have come all in a heap. "Does it suit you?" asked Grace, watching him curiously. "It more than suits," burst out Bob. "Why, I can't thank you enough. You've made me the happiest chap in Stampton." "I've not finished yet," said Mr. Maverick. "Now you have the outfit. I believe you are almost capable of doing the work I wish done." "I will do whatever I can for you," returned Bob quickly, "and I won't charge you a cent." "In that case you can't do anything, but this work is for the railroad." "And what is it?" "We intend before long to get up a new guidebook of the route, and our superintendent thinks we ought to get out a fine illustrated work similar to those put out by some of the larger roads. For that purpose, we'll have to send out a man to take at least 30 or 40 of the finest views obtainable for photo engravings. I've spoken to Mr. Starley, met him just before I returned home, and he thinks with a little coaching you could do this work very well." "I would do my best," returned Bob with sparkling eyes. "I advise that you remain with Mr. Starley for several weeks yet, and then we'll start you out. You may take your own time in getting over the ground, and whenever you need money, you can send to the paymaster for it. When you have finished, the bill will be promptly paid, and I trust by that time you'll have other work sufficient to keep you going. Do you accept?" Bob did, without hesitation.